You're watching Amateur Attempts, and I regret to inform you, but 2 episodes in, we already blew all the funding in the budget for the show. We're out, we're done. There's no more money for anything. We are poverty stricken. And so we're making a poverty meal. Great Depression classic, Chef John's recipe for the Mississippi Slugburger. So if you don't know what a Mississippi Slugburger is, it basically is a hamburger made out of bread. It's actually that poor. So in the Great Depression, resources were limited as per Chef John from foodwishes.com. And so what they would do is fill their meat with bread to cut the meat and therefore cut the costs, because bread was dirt cheap and meat was obviously a more expensive luxury item. So this is right in line with my finances. All you have to do is mix bread with beef and you're halfway there. So specifically for the bread, we're using potato bread as suggested by Chef John. Dried it out a little bit in the oven. It's like, it still has a little give, but it's substantially drier than it was. So they're essentially gonna be breadcrumbs, which is why we have a blender here. They're like fresh breadcrumbs. They're not like the ones you're probably used to for panko or I don't know. It's like meatballs, whatever. It's not like that. They're supposed to have a little bit of moisture because that'll give the burger a little bit more texture. Without further ado, we just have to blend the bread and then get the breadcrumbs into the beef. So let's throw this in the blender. You're supposed to use a food processor, by the way, but I don't own one, so we're gonna use a blender because that's what we do. This is Amateur Attempts. I'm an amateur in the kitchen. Isn't that my thing? No, I'm trying really hard actually. I wanted this recipe to come out good. So I've been craving a burger. This is gonna be too loud, so I'm probably gonna cut this part out. Oh. Oh, breadcrumbs going everywhere. That might have been it. I think we just nailed it. All right. And we have since blended the bread. So we got the bread in the bowl, as you can see. I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully you can see that. And now we just gotta mix it with the beef. This was quite the challenge, but we did get it blended. But I do recommend you try this with a food processor if you were to make this recipe. But then again, if you have a food processor, you're probably better off making just regular hamburgers. Assuming you're financially stable enough for a processor. There's no easy way to open this stuff. They make it challenging to open on purpose. Look at all this hemoglobin. Isn't that appetizing? I sure love hemoglobin. I'm just gonna give this a light beating just like I do my wife. We're gonna, yeah, so it's spread out now. If you can see that, I don't know if you can see that. Got the beef in the bowl, and now we're just gonna slowly incorporate some breadcrumbs. And by slowly, I mean I'm just gonna toss them all in there at once and hopefully get a nice emulsion going. So we finally have our cohesive ball of beef after some time of kneading it. We got the breadcrumbs evenly distributed throughout it. Looks mostly like beef, but I'm sure we're cutting costs as efficiently as possible. So one thing that I did forget to do was season this. There's not a drop of salt. Nothing's in there at all. So we're gonna do that right now. Hopefully I can salvage this. Try to work these seasonings in there. And I'm just gonna like eyeball it. Don't remember what Chef John recommends in the recipe, but we're making slug burgers, man. Like how bad could this be? So we got garlic powder, onion powder. And so now that I got the black pepper in here, I'm going to just try to emulsify it once more, which is quite the challenge because I did a really good job the first time. It's unfortunate that I have to do it again, but this is what happens, man. Amateur attempts. Forget to season your food. Can't not season it. We don't do that here. It's not allowed. So we have the patty right here. You can see flecks of bread throughout the entire thing. I was worried that I beat it too much, and I don't think that's the case. It looks like it's pretty salvageable, actually. It looks fine. So this patty originates from the Great Depression, and I think it's really appropriate because I'm greatly depressed. The show is out of funding after 2 episodes. My patrons, they don't exist. I don't have patrons. Nobody's giving me money. I'm bleeding into debt further and further with each production. It's not going well. Like, it's not a good time. But you know what is a good time? The Mississippi Slugburger. And if that ain't but cheap, I don't know what is. We're gonna get this on the stove right now. So I have since shallow fried the patty and it is nice and crispy. It's a little bit charred, but it's not burnt. I don't think it's burnt in the slightest. I don't know if you can see that. So I've toasted some buns. I got a little bit of mustard on top as per the direction of Chef John. Now I'm just gonna add some pickles. The first time I toasted the bun, I completely blackened it. It's like charcoal. It's really hard. It's like rock hard, which is not ideal, at least not right now. And so I gotta get some pickles on here. But speaking of the pickles, I didn't know this was a thing. I don't eat pickles ever. These are bread and butter pickles. I don't know if this is gonna be okay for this. I messed up. I got the wrong pickles. I burnt the bread. It's been a real process, but we're gonna get there in the end. We're gonna figure this out. I got this like this weird set of wooden tongs. Everything's like, I'm all over the place. This is the simplest recipe I have made to date. And yet I have messed this one up more than any other recipe I've ever made. I let the oil get too hot. I got the wrong kind of pickles. They're weirdly sweet. What else? I burnt the bread. You know, we're not, we got the pickles on there. We got the mustard on there. Cayenne powder on top to finish it. A little bit of salt. All right, that's fine. That, you know, what does that look like? Damn, look at that Mississippi slug burger. I don't know how to feel. It's a very, very smooth texture looking. Only thing left is to try it. That is shockingly good. The burger has a very velvety texture. Like, it's not, you think of burger and you might think like a little bit of differentiation in the particulate, in the particles of meat, but no, it's like really smooth. I wouldn't compare it to meatballs, which is what I would thought it was gonna be like, but it's even smoother than that. It's delicious, no less, because the outside of the patty is actually really crispy. I don't know if you can see that. Sorry, there's a bite taken out. But yeah, it's really crispy on the outside. It has this amazing like crunch to it. So the contrast in texture is just wild. It throws you for a loop. It's smooth on the inside, crispy on the outside. The bread, the bun is nice. The mustard is a nice layer of acidity to cut through the richness of the meat, and great for the recession, the depression, great for all your financially strapped needs. With all that said, I highly recommend you make this at home. This was Amateur Attempts with your host, Squib. I don't know why I messed one up so much, but I'm sure you could do it better and easier. I want to thank you for watching, and I also want to give a thank you to my patrons, because I actually have a couple of patrons. Sorry about what I said earlier, but I want to give a thank you to Eggox, our original patron. Thank you for always supporting the show, man. I appreciate you. And of course, everyone on the fridge. If you two want to get on the fridge or just help support the show financially, because as you know, it's not going well. Patreon is linked in the pinned comment below. Thanks for watching. What? Oh, right. I gotta walk this way. Should I leave that in?
Maybe. Even though I'm taking it in, I feel like I'm
All right.